Today, when we look at the Porsche logo, the Stuttgart crest, the prancing horse, the colors of Württemberg, when you see that symbol cruising down an avenue in Paris, tearing through the Nürburgring, or gleaming under the lights of a New York showroom, you're seeing more than just a luxury car. You're looking at a billion-dollar empire, a brand that represents the pinnacle of human desire and precision engineering. But before it was a status symbol, before it was the name that moves fortunes and defines speed, Porsche was just my last name, and I was just a boy with grease-stained hands hiding in a basement in Bohemia, trying to figure out how to capture electricity in a wire. I watched empires fall. I survived 2 world wars. I spent months in a cold prison cell while the world I helped motorize kept spinning without me. Some call me a genius, others call me an opportunist. The truth? I just wanted to build the perfect machine, and to do that I had to deal with dictators, face bankruptcy, and sacrifice almost everything. Do you want to know how I went from a small-town workshop to becoming the man behind the most famous car in history? Then settle in. My journey didn't start with the roar of a 6-cylinder engine, but with the silence of a light bulb I wasn't supposed to turn on. Maffersdorf, 1875. The Austro-Hungarian Empire felt like a place frozen in time, but the world outside was starting to sizzle with a new kind of energy. I was born on September 3rd in a house where the hammer and anvil dictated the rhythm of life. My father, Anton Porsche, was a respected master panel beater. He was a man of rigid principles and calloused hands, with a very clear vision for the future. I, Ferdinand, was to be his successor. The family's destiny was etched into the cold metal of the gutters and roofs he repaired. But me, I was always different. While my siblings played, I observed, I didn't just see objects, I saw mechanisms. What kept me awake at night wasn't metalwork. It was something invisible that was starting to transform cities. Electricity. To my father, that was witchcraft, or at the very least, a dangerous distraction. Ferdinand, drop that wire nonsense and get back to the shop. Metal doesn't bend itself, he would bark, his voice raspy from a lifetime of breathing soot. I'd bow my head and obey, but my heart was elsewhere. At night, I turned our attic into a secret laboratory. I read everything I could find about Thomas Edison and the new batteries. I wanted to light that house without using a single drop of kerosene. I remember a turning point. I was about 13. I had scavenged some components and was trying to build an electric doorbell system. The smell of acid from those primitive batteries filled my room. My father walked in unexpectedly. "What is this smell, boy? You're going to burn the house down with these follies." He confiscated my materials. He didn't understand that to me electricity was freedom, but I didn't give up. I was stubborn, a trait that would follow me to my grave. I continued my experiments in secret, running wires behind wooden beams, connecting homemade batteries to crude bulbs. One day my father came home late from work. The house was draped in its usual candlelit gloom. I took a deep breath and flipped a switch I had made myself. Suddenly the room was flooded with a white, steady, almost magical light. My father froze. His eyes, used to the twilight, took seconds to adjust. He looked at the lamp, then at me. "So you did this?" he asked in a tone I had never heard before. It wasn't anger, it was respect. From that day on, he realized he couldn't chain me to an anvil in Maffersdorf. He allowed me to attend technical school in Reichenberg at night while working in his shop during the day. It was exhausting, but I didn't feel the fatigue. I was fueled by curiosity. At 18, I decided our small town was too narrow for my ambitions. I needed Vienna. Vienna was the center of the technological universe back then. I arrived with almost nothing in my pockets, but with a recommendation to work at Baylor Egger & Co., an electrical company. I was just a simple laborer there, but my eyes devoured every electric motor, every generator. I didn't have a university degree in engineering, something many historians forget. I was self-taught. I learned by feeling the heat of the components and listening to the hum of the machines. My rise was fast. Within a few years, I moved from the factory floor to the testing department. It was in Vienna that my path crossed with transportation. The world still relied on horses, but horseless carriages, the first automobiles, were emerging. They were noisy, they spat smoke, and they broke down constantly. I thought, why not use electricity to move the wheels? In 1898, I joined Jacob Lohner & Cumberlohner, built luxury carriages for emperors and kings. He knew the future was the motor, but he loathed the noise of internal combustion engines. He wanted something silent and elegant. I had the solution, the wheel hub motor. Just imagine, at the 1900 Paris World Expo, the world stopped to see my creation, the Lohner Porsche. There were no chains, no complex gears. The electric motors were built directly into the front wheels. I was only 25, and my name was already in newspapers across Europe. I was the young prodigy who had tamed electricity for the road. But I soon hit the first major roadblock of my career: batteries. They were too heavy. To have any range, the car needed tons of lead and acid. That's when I had a spark of genius, what you today call a hybrid car. I thought, what if I use a gasoline engine just to generate power for the electric motors? Thus, the Semper Vivus was born. I had invented the future in 1901, decades before any modern manufacturer even dreamed of it. During this time, my personal life also flourished. I met Aloysia Caius. She was my safe harbor, the woman who would endure my obsessions, my sleepless nights, and my often difficult temperament. We married in 1903. She was the foundation upon which I built my family. The following year, my daughter Louise was born, and in 1909, my son Ferdinand Anton Ernst, the one everyone would call Ferry. Despite the success at Lohner, I felt I needed more power. Electricity was the future, but the present belonged to pure, raw speed. In 1906, I accepted an invitation to become the chief engineer at Austro-Daimler. It was a massive leap. I was now in charge of hundreds of workers and had the resources to design racing cars. At Austro-Daimler, I became an obsessive perfectionist. I inspected every single bolt. If something wasn't perfect, I threw it on the floor and demanded they do it again. I wasn't an easy boss. I'd yell, I'd kick my hat across the floor in rage when an engine failed, but I delivered results. I created the Maya, the Prince Heinrich. I drove my own cars in races. The adrenaline of feeling the machine I designed responding to my command at 100 kilometers per hour, an absurd speed for the time, was addictive. I won the Prince Heinrich race in 1910, driving my own car. The glory was immense. I was the master of speed in the empire. But the dark clouds of war were gathering. 1914 changed everything. Suddenly, my talents weren't for racing cars anymore, but for the survival of the country. I was appointed general manager of Austro-Daimler during World War I. I designed giant tractors to pull heavy cannons, the famous electric military transport trains. It was during this period that I was awarded an honorary doctorate from the University of Vienna, something that made me deeply proud, since I had never stepped into a university classroom as a student. I was now Herr Dr. Porsche. When the war ended in 1918, the Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed. Austria was in ruins. Inflation was rampant. Austro-Daimler was in crisis. I wanted to keep innovating, to create lightweight, affordable cars, but the board only thought about cutting costs and sticking to massive luxury cars. Ferdinand, you're spending fortunes on prototypes for small cars that no one wants to buy, they'd tell me in tense meetings. You don't understand, I'd hit the table. The future isn't for the few rich people left. The future is the motorization of the masses. The tension reached its breaking point in 1923. After a heated argument with the board about the company's direction, I grabbed my hat and walked out. I was unemployed, but not for long. Stuttgart, Germany was calling. Daimler Motorengesellschaft needed a genius. There, I helped create some of the most legendary machines of all time, the Mercedes-Benz SSS and SSK, cars with superchargers that roared like beasts. But again, my genius clashed with bureaucracy. I wanted total autonomy. I didn't want to ask permission to innovate. It was in 1931 that I made the riskiest decision of my life. I was 55 years old. Most men think about retiring at that age. I decided to start from scratch. I opened my own independent design office in Stuttgart, Dr. Ing H.C. F. Porsche GmbH Quar. I took the best with me. Karl Rabe, the master of chassis, my son Ferry, who was starting to show innate talent, and Erwin Kommender. We didn't manufacture cars, we sold ideas. We designed engines for others, innovative suspensions like my torsion bar suspension which would change the industry. But I had a secret dream, a project I called Type 12, a small car, rear-engined, air-cooled, the people's car. The Great Depression was crushing Germany. No one had money to invest in a people's car. Manufacturers thought my concept was ridiculous. I knocked on many doors and received many no's. Zundap tried, NSU tried, but the money always ran out. My office was on the verge of bankruptcy. I used my personal savings to pay my employees' salaries. I was at the lowest point of my professional career, struggling to keep my dream alive in a country about to enter its darkest phase. What I didn't know was that soon a meeting would change the course of my life and world history, linking my name to one of humanity's most infamous figures and giving birth to the best-selling car of all time. The year was 1933. My office in Stuttgart was a hive of ideas, but the math wasn't adding up. I saw my engineers, men who had trusted their careers to me, looking at the blueprints with a hunger for achievement, but also the worry of survival. It was in this setting of uncertainty that I received an invitation that would change everything, an invitation to go to Berlin. The new Chancellor of Germany, Adolf Hitler, had an obsession. He wanted to motorize the nation. He didn't just want roads, the famous autobahns that were beginning to be traced on the map. He wanted a vehicle that any German worker could afford, a Volkswagen. Sitting at the table with him was a surreal experience. I was an engineer, a man of numbers, physics, and metal. He was a man of dangerous ideologies and passions, but we had one thing in common: technical enthusiasm for the automobile. He sketched on a napkin what he imagined, something that looked like a Beetle, aerodynamic, capable of carrying 2 adults and 3 children, hitting 100 km/h and costing less than 1,000 Reichsmarks. Herr Porsche, he said, fixing his eyes on me. I know you have the design for this car. Other manufacturers say it's impossible to produce it for this price. What do you say? I didn't hesitate. It is an immense technical challenge, but it is possible with the right engineering. In that moment, I didn't see the politics. I didn't see the shadows closing in on Europe. I saw the opportunity to realize the dream I'd been chasing since the days of Zundap and NSU. I accepted the challenge. I received the contract from the RDA, German Association of the Automotive Industry, to develop the prototype. My office became a creative bunker. Ferry, Karl Rabe, the brilliant Erwin Kommender and I worked day and night. The engine had to be air-cooled because many Germans didn't have heated garages and water would freeze in the winter. It had to be robust, simple, and cheap. We tested two-cylinder engines, two-stroke engines. Nothing satisfied me until we reached the air-cooled four-cylinder boxer engine. Its sound was unique, a metallic, gutsy growl, but development was a nightmare of deadlines and pressure. The government demanded results. In 1935, the first prototypes, the V1 and V2, began to roll. I took them myself for exhaustive tests in the Black Forest. I demanded the cars be pushed to the limit. If a part broke, I didn't just replace it. I redesigned the entire system. Father, Ferry told me once, as we observed a disassembled prototype under flashlight, we're creating something that goes beyond a car. It's a social tool. I agreed. But my focus was mechanical perfection. In 1938, the cornerstone of the Wolfsburg factory was laid. It was a propaganda spectacle. Thousands of people, flags everywhere. The car was christened the Kadetwagen, strength through joy car. I hated the name. To me, it was the Type 60, but to the world, it would become the Beetle. However, professional success was bound by heavy chains. To get the resources and the factory, I became increasingly involved with the state machine. I became a member of the Nazi Party, and later, the SS. Was it a pragmatic decision at the time? Yes. I wanted to protect my company and my projects, but it was a decision that would stain my legacy forever. I was a technocrat. I thought I could serve science without being swallowed by politics. I was dead wrong. In 1939, the gears of war truly began to grind. The Wolfsburg factory, which was supposed to produce millions of cars for German families, never actually delivered a single car to the workers who had been paying for them. Instead, the assembly lines were converted. The Beetle became the Kübelwagen, the German Jeep, and the Schwimmwagen, the amphibious car. My mind was recruited for destruction. I was appointed chairman of the Tank Commission. I designed the Tiger, a metal monster intended to dominate the battlefield. But here my obsession with innovation almost became my technical undoing. While other engineers built simple, reliable tanks, I designed a gasoline-electric hybrid propulsion system for the Tiger P. It was genius on paper, an evolution of my 1900 system, but far too complex for the brutal conditions of war. Meetings with the high command were tense. I clashed with generals. Do you want a tank that works or a museum relic? They would taunt me. I'd lose my temper, I'd kick my hat, shouting in my Austrian dialect. I was the only one who dared to contradict the absurd technical demands coming out of Berlin. During this period, success was a double-edged sword. I had unlimited resources, but I lived under the weight of knowing my creations were being used for death. And then there was the matter of labor. The Wolfsburg factory used forced labor, prisoners of war. Did I know? Yes. Was I too focused on my blueprints to intervene? Unfortunately. That is a question that haunted me through every sleepless night. I was a man who loved machines, but in those days, I failed to stand up for the humanity that operated them. By 1944, Stuttgart was being devastated by bombings. My home, my office, everything was under fire. I decided to move part of the production and design to an old sawmill in Gmünd, Austria. It was a return to my roots, far from the bombs of Berlin. It was in Gmünd that the war ended for me. When Germany surrendered in 1945, I thought that, as a technician, I would be spared. After all, the Americans and the Russians wanted brains, but the French had other plans. I was invited to the French occupation zone under the pretext of discussing a people's car for France, which would later become the Renault 4CV. It was a trap. In December 1945, my son Ferry, my son-in-law Anton Piesch and I were arrested on war crimes charges related to the management of the factory and the treatment of French workers. Ferry was released after a few months, but I was kept in damp cells in Baden-Baden, Paris, and finally, Dijon. I was 70 years old. My health was failing. The spark in my eyes, the one my father saw when I lit that first bulb, was fading. I spent my days in silence, sketching imaginary cars on the cell walls with bits of charcoal. How did it come to this, Anton? I would ask my son-in-law through the bars. We survived engineering, Ferdinand, he'd say. Now we have to survive history. I was broke. The French government demanded an astronomical bail of 1 million francs. My family didn't have that kind of money. The company was paralyzed. It looked like the name Porsche would die right there in a French prison, like a forgotten villain of the century. But what I didn't know was that my son, Ferry, was outside those bars doing the impossible. He was taking the pieces of what was left of our Gmund workshop and turning them into something new. He wasn't just trying to get me out of prison, he was trying to save our soul through a new design, the design that would finally carry our name on the hood. While I suffered through the cold French winter of 1946, Ferry was breathing life into Project 356. He was using the lessons I taught him about lightness, rear engines, and aerodynamics to create the first Porsche sports car. The money he earned designing the Cisitalia race car for the Italian industrialist Piero Duccio was what eventually paid for my freedom. In August 1947, after 20 months in captivity, I was released. When I crossed the border back into Austria, I was a physically broken man, but my spirit was still searching for the next engine. The world I found in 1947 was a strange place. I was 72, my legs were heavy, my heart no longer beat with its old rhythm, and the weight of those 20 months in squalid conditions had aged my soul more than the previous 7 decades. But when Ferry picked me up at the border, he didn't see a defeated man. He saw the master. "Father, we have a lot to talk about," he said as we drove through the winding Austrian roads. He didn't take me to a mansion or a luxury factory. He took me back to the old sawmill in Gmund. The smell of cut wood and motor oil hit me like a tonic. There, amidst the post-war chaos, my team, those loyal men who never abandoned me, was working on something small, low, and silver. Ferry placed the blueprints of the 356 in front of me. I put on my glasses, my trembling hands tracing the curved lines that Erwin Kommender had perfected. The engine was the boxer I had designed for the Beetle, but everything about it screamed efficiency. I looked at my son, and for the first time in years, I smiled. "I wouldn't have changed a single bolt, Ferry. You did exactly what I would have done." That was my greatest pride, seeing that the Porsche bloodline of thought was safe, but the struggle was just beginning. We had no quality steel, no tires, no money. Austria was occupied, and Stuttgart was still an open wound. We survived by manufacturing whatever we could: winches, water pumps, farm tractors. Yes, the man who designed the Tiger was now designing plows, but every cent was invested in that small sports car. The Porsche 356 wasn't just a car, it was our declaration of independence. It was proof that the name Porsche didn't belong to the state or the military, it belonged to the freedom of the open road. In 1948, the first 356 was certified, and 1.100cc car with about 35 horsepower. It might seem like little today, but the weight was so low and the aerodynamics so refined that it put much more powerful machines to shame. We began selling the first units to customers in Switzerland. Every sale was a breath of oxygen for our financial lungs. Yet the past was still knocking at the door. The Volkswagen, my people's car project, was being mass-produced in Wolfsburg under British administration. I wasn't receiving a single penny in royalties. The factory I helped build was flourishing while I struggled to buy aluminum sheets in Gmund. We went to Wolfsburg. I remember walking the halls of that massive factory. The workers stopped to stare, some with admiration, others with suspicion. I was the father of that noisy machine that was now beginning to take over the streets of Europe. Ferry, with his diplomatic skill, managed to negotiate a historic contract with the new Volkswagen administration. The deal was brilliant. Volkswagen would pay a license fee for every Beetle manufactured. They would use our office for engineering consultancy, and in exchange, we could use their distribution network to sell our little Porsche 356. Suddenly, the financial security I had chased my whole life was guaranteed. The Beetle, the project that almost cost me my life, became the foundation of my family's fortune. In 1950, we decided it was time to go home, Stuttgart. We returned to Zuffenhausen, back to where it all began in 1931. Production of the 356 moved from hand-hammered aluminum in Gmund to steel in Stuttgart. The brand was growing. The Porsche name was becoming synonymous with victories in hill climbs and at Le Mans. But time was taking its toll. My health worsened drastically. In September 1950, I celebrated my 75th birthday. It was a grand celebration. Old colleagues, drivers, engineers, everyone was there. I watched a parade of cars that I had designed over the span of 50 years. I looked at those cars and saw my life passing by. The electric loaner, the racing Mercedes, the Beetle, the tanks, and now the 356. I saw progress and I saw destruction. I saw how one man's ambition can light up a city or be used to darken the world. In November 1950, I suffered a stroke. My mind, which had always been a whirlwind of calculations and 3D visions, began to fail. I could no longer hold a pencil to draw a chassis. I, who had always controlled every detail, was now at the mercy of doctors and nurses. I remember my last visit to the Volkswagen factory in Wolfsburg shortly before I fell terminally ill. I looked at the assembly line and saw thousands of Beetles heading out into the world. Major Ivan Hurst, the British officer who saved the factory, walked with me. "You changed the world, Herr Porsche," he said. I just shook my head. I didn't want to change the world. I just wanted people to be able to get from one place to another with efficiency and pleasure. I spent my final days in Stuttgart. Looking out the window, I could hear the sound of engines. The roar of the Boxer engine was my heartbeat. On January 30th, 1951, my engine finally stopped. I died knowing that the name Porsche was no longer just the name of a tinsmith from Maffersdorf. It was a symbol. But I couldn't have imagined what would come next. I didn't live to see the 911. I didn't live to see my brand win Le Mans 19 times. I didn't live to see Porsche become the most profitable car company on the planet. But in a way, I was there. In every corner a driver takes, feeling the weight of the car's rear. Every time someone accelerates and hears the metallic rasp of air cooling, I am there. I am the spark that lit the lamp in my father's attic, and the force that moves the most desired cars in the world. I passed away on a cold January morning in 1951, but the story of a man like me doesn't end with the silence of a heart. It continues in metal, rubber, and asphalt. If my life was about creation and struggle, what came after was about the expansion and consecration of a dynasty that would change the face of modern capitalism. Ferry Porsche, my son, carried the burden of being the heir to a genius, and he did it with an elegance that I, with my explosive temper, perhaps never had. He took the 356 and refined it. He understood that Porsche shouldn't just be an engineering firm selling designs to others, but a lifestyle brand. Under Ferry's leadership, the name my father wrote with pride on his metal shop became the terror of the racetracks. We won the Targa Florio, we dominated the hill climbs, and eventually, we began our dynasty at Le Mans. Every victory was a tribute to those nights we spent in Gmund, hand-hammering aluminum sheets. But the true leap into eternity happened in 1963. My grandson, Ferdinand Alexander Porsche, Butzi, sketched the lines for the successor to the 356. He called it the 901, but due to a rights dispute with Peugeot, the world came to know it as the 911. When I saw the first sketches of that car, even from the other side, I knew there was the essence of everything I believed in. The engine behind the rear axle, the teardrop profile, function over form. The 911 became the backbone of our family. The story of Porsche, however, isn't just made of victories on the track. There were failures, family tensions, and near collapses. In the 70s and 80s, the Porsche family and the Piech family, descendants of my daughter Louise, went on a collision course. Genius was inherited, but so was the ego. We decided then that no family member would hold operational positions in the company to save it from ourselves. It was a difficult decision, but a necessary one. The company flourished, faced economic crises, and in the 90s, we were almost swallowed up. But the spirit of innovation I started with the hybrid Lohner Porsche in 1900 came back to save us. We returned to our roots of efficiency and daring. Today, when you look at the Porsche brand, you see a giant that doesn't just produce sports cars, but defines the technology of the future with the electric Taycan. It's curious, isn't it? I started with electricity in 1900, and now, over a century later, the world returns to where I began. The circle has closed. My fortune? Today, the Porsche Piech Group controls one of the greatest automotive powerhouses on the planet, the Volkswagen Group. The people's car I designed under the shadow of a dictatorship became the foundation for an empire that owns brands like Audi, Bentley, Lamborghini, Bugatti, and of course Porsche itself. Billions of euros in market value, millions of lives impacted. I made mistakes, deep mistakes that history does not erase. The pact I made to build my dream came at a high price, but my life proves that technical passion, when taken to the extreme, survives regimes, wars, and time itself. I am Ferdinand Porsche. I was the boy fascinated by copper wires and the man who gave wheels to the world. My story isn't just about cars, it's about the human obsession to go further, to be faster, to be better. As long as there is an engine roaring on a deserted road or an electric motor humming silently in a metropolis, I am still alive. The story of Ferdinand Porsche is a lesson that success and failure walk hand in hand. From a dark basement in Bohemia to the boardrooms that control billions of dollars, the Porsche legacy is a reminder that engineering can change the destiny of a nation and a family. If you felt inspired by this journey of highs and lows, of genius and controversy, don't forget to leave a like on this video. It helps bring these stories of great icons to more people. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next deep dives into the minds that shaped the modern world. And if you liked the story of Porsche, I highly recommend you watch our other videos, including the one appearing on your screen right now. Thank you for joining me this far. As I used to say, I couldn't find the car of my dreams, so I built it myself. What are you going to build today until next time?